Okay, so once you have your square that you've been assigned, I'm going to show you right now how to start shading that in. So I have my square right here traced on here, and I've outlined, I've measured it on the board and just kind of did a basic outline of all the spots, which you should have done at this point. All right, so the next step is to start shading it. We have our value scale up at the top, so you can see where the darkest and lightest values, like what they're going to be, and you're going to use those same values and all the ones in between in your square. So I'm doing E2, which for her it's this eye right here. So I have my paper right here to look at the values in that one square. I also have on my computer, I have it pulled up and kind of zoomed in to that. So that's a better way to do it. If you can pull up this portrait on your Chromebook and zoom in to make it really big, it's going to help you. Here's one that I've done. It's the same letter, but I've not completely finished it, but gotten kind of close. At least I've done like most of the eye part, and I'll keep working on this one, but that's just, I'm going to show you how I started to get there. So I have my HB, I have an HB, a 5B, and a 3B. I did the outlining with the HB. Now with my 3B, I'm going to start shading. So looking at the square right here, I'll just start in the eye. And the eye is going to be the darkest value. So I am starting with this 3B. I could definitely switch to the 6B though, because looking at that in the eye is the darkest value. So I'll start coloring that in. It doesn't really matter where you start, just kind of like wherever you feel. So like looking at it, whatever speaks to you, you're like, hey, I want to start right here. And so for me, it was the eye and the iris. So I'm going around, there's a little bit of a highlight in her eye, so I did outline that. This circle is going to stay white, and then I'll eventually go back and add a little more value. Not as dark as the iris, but not totally white in the part below it. So I'm just looking back and forth. If you remember from when we did our drawing videos, you need to look, you should spend a lot of your time looking at the thing that you're drawing, not just at your picture. So if you were to look at my eyes right now, you would notice them going back and forth and back and forth, trying to match the values the same. All right, so I have this kind of dark. The highlight under this circle right here is not totally white, so I'm gonna add a little bit of value to it right there. And I can go back on to it later and work on it. Okay, so still looking at it, the eye, she has a like an eyelid right here. And that line is here, so I'll use the sharper part of my pencil. Even though my pencil like it doesn't look super sharp, there's definitely a flat spot. I am gonna turn it on to its tippy toes to do this line because it's a little thinner. And that goes all kind of curves at the end and goes around like so. And I'll start adding some shading. So above the eyelid, when I'm looking at this part right here, on the inside there's more, it's a darker value, and it gradually gets lighter right up until kind of above right here. So I'm going to start shading in kind of medium. I'm looking at my value scale and at my picture, and it's about this right here. So I'm going to start with this value, try to get that value here, and then work my way up. So yeah, look at your value scales that you've made, and while you're looking at your square to see what kind of values to do. Now it's hard for me to tell in this one because it's so small, but in on my computer where it's pulled up a little bit, there's actually a little bit of a shape to the shadow, to the end of the shadow. So right above where her eye is, it comes out a little bit further right here. Now those are details that I've just been drawing for a long time, stuff that I noticed that it might take you some practice to notice. All right, so I'm gonna start adding a little more values here because it's a little slight. I see it's a little bit darker right in this spot, and then go back in, and it's pretty deep in here. Her eyelashes are right below here, so I will color those in. Those are pretty dark, so I'm going to use my 6B. So you'll be changing back and forth through from your 6B, 3B, and HB pencils. Remember the real light areas, you can use your HB. I got a little dark line right there because this paper was under there, so yeah, make sure that there's nothing under your paper when you're drawing. Now I'm just filling in that eyelash. And right here where it's its darkest value, it's going to actually be the same value as the iris. So it's going to take some time, some working. You'll probably be moving around your square, coloring in different spots. Notice how I got my hand on my paper and it's smudging it. You know, be careful. I'm not the most careful person. Ideally, you would want to start in the left-hand corner and work your way down if you don't want to make messes like this, but they do erase, so I'm not going to be too worried about it. All right, so continuing filling in the eyelash, and notice how like these are her eyelashes. When I'm looking at this and when I'm looking at the computer, I do not see like individual lashes. I don't see like lines. There is kind of some texture to it, so I probably will go and just add, maybe not make this a super straight line, but add some kind of texture to the ends, because this part goes out. So really, you really have to look at your use your eyes a lot. What you think you see might not be what you actually see. So in your mind, you might be saying like, oh, these are eyelashes, so I'm gonna do lines. But looking at this, I don't see any lines. So make sure you're drawing what you see, not what you think should be there. It's kind of like the biggest trick to getting good at drawing from pictures and from real life. It takes a lot of practice though. All right, so inside of this corner of her eye is kind of real dark, so I'm gonna add some darker values here. And it does get lighter right before it gets up to her pupil. All right, so I'm gonna keep working on this one, but hopefully you've seen enough, or I've showed you enough, so you can start working on yours. I'll keep drawing. Keep working on mine.